All right, so we got the motor back out of the truck. It's time to get our engine mounts finalized, get the motor de-dressed so we can start getting the prep to go back in, and get the fab out adapter kit back in there so we can run that AR5. So got a lot on the agenda today, but for now, we're gonna start with just taking everything off the motor. Well, there's that. Aluminum coagulation. All right, it's time to get this thing outside so we can get it hopefully cleaned up some. Got our mounts on there. I just want to put this back in the engine bay. Make sure that the mounts reach. You know, make sure they hit where we want. See how they're laying on there. That's nice. Now that I have this down there on these mounts, these are the stock ones that were in the truck, and they are pretty wobbly, pretty worn out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the motor back up, put the new ones in that I have, and then drop it back down and see what that looks like. That sucker's up there. You can't really get a 1/2-inch socket on it where it's located. So I've got a wrench and I've got a 3/8. I don't know, we'll see. There's not a lot of room to work with there to bust that out. May have to pull the motor up higher. Got that sucker loose. I can pull the old mount out. So here's our original. You can see kind of that surrounding piece. And here's the new one. It should go in like that. And you can see overall. So yeah, that thing's pretty well corroded up in there and busted. Definitely has bigger. These just are built with tabs on the bottom. Metal tabs right there. In fact, I can't even tell. I think this one, yeah, was in like that. Try to get that in there now. That's all there is to it, I guess. Screw the 2 tabs on the bottom. And then this is kind of gets clamped between it when it's down there in the motor bay like this. What surprises me a bit is that this is actually slotted, and then it looks like the peg that comes through here will go into that spot, and that's kind of what helps solidify it down in there. Yeah, just like that. And there we go. Now you gotta tighten it up. Nice and tight. You can move to the other side. Okay, and that sucker's now out. This one also pretty busted. Anyways, new one going in. So now we got both mounts in, both new mounts. The question is, do we want to pull this out, get the transmission set up, and put it on there, and then try to stab the whole thing, which, you know, it wouldn't have to be like almost a 90-degree angle to do that. It'd be very weird. Or try to put the transmission in from the bottom, which also would be pretty difficult because the space back where the bell housing is, I don't know if you're gonna be able to get any vertical movement on that. Like, I feel kind of dumb. So the mount itself, if you put it on the kind of, I don't know what you would call this plate. I keep trying to think of a word for it, but if you put it on this plate backwards, which you can do, it changes the location where the stud is, and therefore this no longer fits. So I now have to unbolt all these and fix them. Now that I got those redone, everything dropped in here on the new mounts, I have realized that when I did the bending math, for those of you who don't know, when you order something or you do something bent on a piece of metal, there's a radius that is created that has to happen. It actually ends up being weird because you make the part smaller than what you want it to end up being, like overall lengthwise. It gets longer as it gets bent. And when I did the math for this, I kind of forgot about the fact that this plate that I made, the motor mount plate, is open so that the U-bracket can sit into it, and you weld on the back, like the face side of the plate, where there wouldn't be anything, you know, like it's not the motor side, it's on the opposite side of the plate. Well, in doing that, I made this literally the 1/4 inch that it, like the plate's a 1/4 inch thick, and that 1/4 inch is what I do not have. So right now, the oil pan, as it sits, it's sitting directly on the steering bar. I mean, like, dead nuts. And it's funny because it's like dead nuts on the mount and the steering bar at the same time. I need that 1/4 inch. In fact, I could probably push it to a 1/2 inch if I wanted to. So for now, for test fitting and getting the transmission and stuff in there, I think I might take these extra plates that I have with a slot in them and set them on top of the motor mount, and then put the motor back down on that, and that's a 1/4 inch thick, which should give me some clearance. Although it's not going to be a 1/4 inch, it's probably going to be more like an 1/8 inch at that point. But that's all I can think of doing right now. Those two spare plates I had, and this is obviously just for fit up. Like I said, these are they're 3/16 thick, so I might get an 1/8 inch setting them in here like this. And it's obviously not going to be like super ideal per se. This is going to touch the metal and everything. But for now, we're going to use that to try to get a little bit more clearance. It's too bad. I mean, this is kind of what happens when you R&D things. You're going to find half the time you just don't have the right dimensions to work with. And it's not great because then it's a lot of work to redo it. But, I mean, it's the name of the game, right? Another thing is this motor just hates where I have this. Like, I'm not sure if I can stab this engine like with the trans on it. It'd be pretty intense, I would say. We're gonna have to see what works. All right, we're on the plate now. Gonna finish dropping it. You'll see it kind of settle down. We'll see if it stays off the steering arm there. See how much the motor rotates to sit flush. Okay, now we're off it. Let's check underneath. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get you a shot of this, but it's literally exactly what I was talking about. We got about an 1/8 inch of clearance right now with that 3/16 plate. Okay, we finally got our final version of these plates for now, and I've actually added a little bit of a slight angle on the end, and I've extended them to bring the motor up a little bit more. So let's see what these look like. So you can kind of see the difference in height here. About a kind of shot for a 1/2 inch here, which should translate roughly to a 1/4 inch of clearance. And then we went ahead and added a little bit of a tilt to it so you get better aligned with the Mazda mount. Okay, get that side bolted on the other side. Okay, so I got the motor down, but I have an asterisk on that, so I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about here. So if you can see this, where our bolt is in the mount, one of the challenges that I had when bringing this down was that the two bolts weren't necessarily lining up, because you have one coming like this and one coming in on this side, and you're coming down, you're just coming straight down, and there has to be some room in that slot for it to land in between. And well, when I went to do it with this new mount, which is a 1/2 inch longer than the other one, I'll show you the other one here. This is my visual aid, but this part right here is what I extended. So that's not a 1/2 inch longer. And in doing that, because it's mounted at a 45, like so, when you make that a 1/2 inch longer, it actually, you can tell, would extend this location by about 1/4 inch. So that's what happened. So everything kind of moved over a little bit. We got the height we wanted. I'll show you that in a sec. But the fitment got a little challenging. And the problem is, the way this is built, this is almost centered between these two slots that go to the motor. So I can't sit here and shove this all the way down. It has to be relatively where it is. Maybe I could get an 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch. It's really not going to do a whole lot to shift this in. So for a second there, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of worried. I'm like, okay, this might not work like this. This might not fit. But then I remembered that at the same time, you're bolting, you know, the mount to the frame, right? There's the frame landing pads, essentially. So what I did is I just went on, I really just loosened them slightly. Like they were, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch of thread. But I loosened it, and then I could tip the mount back and forth enough to get it to catch and land and everything hooked up. Basically, as it came down, it leveled everything out, and then they sat completely fine because they have those little tabs in the bottom of the rubber pad part, and I was able to bolt it down. Here we are looking from the other side. You can see, I mean, it's a pretty good contact. That angle I added allowed this to sit a lot flatter on there, like pretty much completely flat, which I'm happy with. Another thing I'm excited about is just the spacing from the firewall here. You can see how close we are, but it still has enough room to move around. Same thing on that side. Obviously, that head's a little bit further forward, which actually works perfectly for the damn parking cable right there. Okay, so for the next thing to look at is our freaking oil pan. Take a look at this. We're doing pretty dang good in the oil pan clearance segment on that steering link, so also really happy with that. Now from here, I have seen you guys message me. We've been teasing some stuff on the other social media platforms. I've been getting a bunch of messages about when you can buy the mounts. The truth of it is, you can shoot us a message. I will handle it through PayPal. We'll figure it out. I will sell these. We'll make them and sell them. This is a little bit different for us. We do sell some other products, but it's for Volkswagens, and those are more of a manufacturer kind of fire and forget. You just make them, get them powder coated. With these, I do have to weld them myself and then package them again and then ship them out. The other thing is adding powder coating or anything like that is something that we could do, could be part of the standard process, but not unless I have a batch order. So one of the things I've always kind of hated about people making parts for vehicles is a lot of time that cost effectiveness of the batch order stops you from being able to make it. I understand that from a business perspective. It's not as cheap as everyone thinks. So that being said, with this one, I will make these one-off. If you guys want to shoot me a message on Facebook, you want to send us an email at theoegarage@gmail.com. We can figure it out either way on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. We'll figure it out if you want it powder coated. Like I said, we have Tin Works, which we can do the powder coating right down the road from us. So we get the material bent and get it shaped up, get it cut out. I can weld it together. We can get powder coated if you want. If you don't want it powder coated, obviously that'll be cheaper, and I can ship it out to you guys. For now, we're going to call that version 1. We'll probably end up on the site as well at some point, but that may be when version 2 comes out, which really would just be a production version of it that I can run in a higher quantity and at a cheaper cost, probably. Just being transparent with it. Part of that is just because eventually I want to offer the engine mount, a modified cross member, and the trans mount for an AR5 as a full package, like a swap package that you can purchase instead of just the engine mounts. But I understand the engine mounts themselves will be kind of the number one thing. I also want to sell them like this so that they go to specific people who I know they are, because they're not tried and tested on my equipment. They do work to fit everything on there. They're made out of 1/4 inch material, so I think they're going to be pretty solid, but I would like to see how the stock Mazda mounts act with the LS engines. And if someone's going to beat me to the punch of having their LS running and driving, then I can stay in contact with them, see how the mounts perform, see how they work on those stock Mazda isolators, and that would be great information for me. In the meantime, we're going to be charging ahead in the rest of the swap, getting all the physical stuff done. I'm going to post this video right now just to kind of close out the engine mount saga. We're gonna move on to getting the fab adapter all set up and then get the transmission mounted. So more to come.